Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Brendan and welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new here, it is great to have you. And today I want to explain why I am growing increasingly bullish on Bitcoin and talk about the path that Bitcoin has been on this year and explain how all that could be changing very, very soon. So if that sounds interesting at all, make sure you stick around for the entire length of the video as there will be important information discussed the entire way through. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive on into this. Now, number one, I want to look at the RSI, but also the price movement of Bitcoin and where it's at right now. So zooming in and looking at how Bitcoin has been almost in this parallel sideways channel between a level of support and resistance, I want to highlight these key levels over here. Now, we first saw this one back in the beginning of 2021 in early January, where we used this point as a rejection. After breaking through it, we saw it as a little bit more resistance on the way back up as we approached this once again in May. Now, upon testing this in May, I think this is like the fourth or fifth time that Bitcoin has tested this level so far. And again, every single time that we have tested this level, it has continued to stay as a resistance point. Now, we've seen a pretty clear level of support on Bitcoin down around 30,000, 31,000, and we've held this for the most part too. So now Bitcoin's in kind of this bouncy ball area where we're bouncing between resistance and support just time after time. And we are continuing to do this essentially until one of these two sides break. Now, I have the belief that support here is actually going to end up being stronger than resistance, and that resistance will ultimately break and support will ultimately hold. So with that being said, I think that there is a very good case that the bottom could potentially be in for Bitcoin here, and we might see a higher high as of, above 40,000 before we see a lower low of below 30,000. So I think ultimately time will tell, but I want to explain just why here. So going over to the RSI, which is again one of my favorite indicators, and zooming out on this daily time scale, we can see a couple of things. The first that I think is the most significant is that on Bitcoin's RSI going all the way back to December of 2020, when was this? Going back to December, of 2018, this has been a long time in the making. We had this ultimate very low swing low on a macro point. In 2020, we had another higher swing low, and now in 2021, we had once again a very large sell-off, but still a higher swing low on a macro time scale. When I say macro, we're talking not weeks, not months, but years in the making, saying every time that Bitcoin has a sell-off, every 1 to 2 years, it has these big sell-offs, especially every 3 to 4 years with the halvening. But every time that this has been happening, and these major sell-offs have been happening since 2018, they have been getting weaker and weaker. Meaning every time the bears have these massive sell-offs every couple of years, they are getting weaker. They have a higher rating on the relative strength index, which is showing me that upon every attempt to the downside, they are getting weaker, which inadvertently says that the bulls are getting stronger if the bears are getting weaker. Now, seeing this on such a large time scale is something that I haven't seen, especially not on Bitcoin in a very long time. This is a crazy opportunity because what this means is that if this is a form of multi-year triple bullish divergence from an RSI, it could mean that 100K Bitcoin is not too far away. And I know that sounds like a crazy price prediction, especially with Bitcoin being at like $40,000 right now or just below that. And I'm not one to give like these crazy like multi-X, 10X your money sort of videos, but I can't remember the last time that I have ever seen a multi-year triple bullish divergence on the RSI or anything like this on any kind of asset. Maybe with the exception being like gold or silver had something like this, and of course it did several times. It several X'd. But besides that, I really have not seen something this kind of crazy. But with us seeing this on Bitcoin, and ultimately, as we looked at in one of the past videos, talking about the acceptance, and there was a chart for it. There's the acceptance or the interest in Bitcoin peaking and continuing to grow. This would make sense that the bears are getting weaker, interest is growing, people are getting comfortable buying again, but we can't ignore the fact that Bitcoin is definitely at this resistance level. I believe, again, if Bitcoin wants to break this 40 to 42K resistance area, there's not a lot holding it back from going up to like 50,000. And then from 50,000, I think that if it breaks 50,000, there's not much stopping it from 60. And then after 60, we have the previous all-time high of like 65. If it breaks 65, then, well, who knows, right? There's really no more resistance after that besides psychological levels that we can name off, like 70, 80, 75,000, 100,000. So the key, I guess, crucial areas that I'm looking at Bitcoin are, number one, this big resistance level of like 41 to 42,000, and then the support of what I would say to be like 31 to 29,000. These are the levels that Bitcoin needs to either hold or break, depending upon whether you're a bull or a bear. But also something that I noticed towards the bullish aspect is that these EMAs are starting to point back upwards. Both the 50 and the 200s even starting to curl upwards now. I believe that if a golden cross happens, then this could very well be the end of what we imagine to be the bear market. It really looked doom and gloom with this descending triangle forming, but with this getting broken out of and really contradicted, that does not happen too often. I imagine descending triangles to be one of the most reliable forms of bearish formation patterns. It's not like a pennant or something like that. I would say like head and shoulders are usually pretty good ones, but also descending triangles. But with this breaking out of this, again, a multi-month descending triangle on Bitcoin, this is telling of the bulls being extremely comfortable buying in this area, so much to contradict this. Support did not weaken, despite touching this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different times. And every single time that Bitcoin reaches this area, we saw a ton of buying pressure, right? Let's highlight this a little bit. So we touched it here. We went immediately from like 29,000 up to almost 42,000. Touched it again, went from 30,000 up to 41,000. Touched it again and went from 31,000 up to 41,000. And time and time again, it had this multi-thousand, if not $10,000 bounce after touching the support area. Now, resistance was working the same way, again, but I think that this plays into the bulls' favor because of all the other factors that we were looking at. Again, descending triangle breaking, EMAs pointing upwards, bullish advantages on the relative strength index, lots of stuff like that. And then, of course, growing interest. So there's a lot to look at over here, but I think that with cryptocurrency moving the way that it is, receiving the level of adoption that it is, and breaking out the way that it has on this technical analysis chart, it's definitely looking fairly good here. So that is what I am looking at on the Bitcoin chart right now and what is piquing my interest. If you guys found this video helpful at all or really enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I try to create as much content like this as I can and create it as informative of a video as I can as well. So nothing I said here again is legal, financial, or tax advice in any way, and shouldn't be taken as such. But if you did like this, hit the subscribe button, give me a comment in the comment section down below, and smack the like, share it to a friend, and I look forward to seeing all of you very, very soon.